I just want to say, like, thank you so much for everyone who's joined this webinar this evening. Before I hand over to the main man himself, Rob, if you will indulge me just for a couple of minutes, I'll tell you a little bit about me, so that you don't get confused about who this bloke is on the screen. My name is Tom. I am a former army officer, served in the army for 22 years before getting out 2 years ago last February. I'm a dad, and over the last 12 years, I have essentially set myself as many physical challenges as I could possibly get my hands on. Everything from Ironman triathlons, ultra marathon running, racing Hyrox, CrossFit, and I even dipped my toe into a season of bodybuilding, much to the amusement of the soldiers that I had the privilege to lead over my last couple of years of my career. But for the last 8 years, I've also been coaching triathlon and running at various units, in a largely informal capacity, over the course of the last sort of 8 years. Um, and as time went on, I started to realize that my job had become a little bit more policy and paperwork than perhaps I was comfortable with. And so I decided to take my passion and pursue it as a profession. Um, and so 3 years ago, I started TC coaching, and the aim is very, very simple. I want to get people just like you setting yourself hard challenges, whether that be more informal, personal best attempts, or indeed 5 kilometers up to ultra marathons, triathlon, Hyrox, and anything in between. Because I'm firmly of the belief that when we set ourselves hard challenges, we can really get the best out of ourselves. It also acts as a vehicle for me to program against. It acts as a fantastic opportunity to dial in things like nutrition, strength, and cardiovascular endurance as well. And I lead, as you've seen on the screen before, a multidiscipline team, right? Because I totally appreciate that in order to get the very best out of myself, I need to play to my strengths. I am not a rehabilitation expert, nor am I a nutritionist. And so I brought in a rehabilitation expert and a nutritionist into my coaching team, both of which have had an enormous impact on Rob, who we're obviously here to listen to, whether it be in a formal capacity or more informal. Gaz, I'm going to ask the team to introduce themselves in a second. Whether anybody who works with me has a direct line into Gaz because they need some kind of rehab intervention or not. I often use him as a sounding board to pass my ideas off, whether it's to do with programming, a very accomplished athlete and indeed coach. He is my coach as well, himself. Whether it to be bounce ideas off, or if I've had just an informal message, oh, I've got my knees a bit tricky or whatever, and can you provide some support? And so we have that relationship. So I'm just going to ask very briefly the team to introduce themselves over a couple of minutes, and they will be available at the end if you have any questions whatsoever, whether it be questions to Rob directly, to me, or indeed Gaz and Adam, on your own sort of, use it as a free for all. If you're on a fitness journey at the minute, and you need a little bit of advice from one of the experts, then please, use this opportunity at the end to ask those questions. If you want to put them in the chat, I can keep a note of them as we go through Rob's presentation, and then bring them up, or indeed we'll have open forum at the end. So Gaz, if I can throw over to you now, mate, if you can just introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do in the team.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Gaz. I essentially lead the rehabilitation function of the team. So I worked with Rob initially, sorting a few of his issues and injuries out that had been long-standing. So working through that. My background is military as well. So I did 15 years in the military. With my last 6 years being an exercise rehabilitation instructor, and have been in the health and fitness world since 2009. I know I don't look that old, but I am. Yeah, I am. Anyway, so I've been in the health and fitness world since 2009. I've held jobs across elite sport all the way through to kind of everyday rehabilitation stuff. Got everywhere from a kind of an MRes qualification, BA honours, through to level 4, 5s, and 6s in strength conditioning. So I work kind of behind the scenes with Tom, making sure that people like Rob have everything they need, which is part of my kind of role as well. I've also got a load of random calls because I was in the Royal Army Physical Training course. So if you need a rock climbing instructor or a kayak instructor, I'm probably the one for that as well. But yeah, that's my role. And not everyone sees me, obviously. Not everyone is injured, which is the whole point of it. The reason why I work so closely with Tom is so we can prevent issues rather than actually dealing with them when they crop up. But yeah, that's my background.
Perfect. Thank you very much, mate. And Adam, over to you.
Hello, team. Yeah, I am Adam Glover. I am the performance nutrition consultant within TC Coaching, and so yeah, my remit within Rob's journey has been very varied. Like that's probably the best way I can put it. He came to us and he'll go through this in his goals of what he was trying to achieve, and then we started to open up doors and figure out, okay, this is this is really what's possible for Rob because he's got the capability and the mentality. So yeah, my goal and my remit with Rob and with everybody that comes in TC coaching has always been more along the lines of taking science and nutrition, foundational science stuff, and actually applying it to your lives and talking to you in a way you understand. Like education is massive for me. Teaching you actually why things matter, but not in like a, ooh, this is the mTOR C1 pathway. It's like, what do we need to eat and why? Like, let's have a conversation. And so I very much want to talk to you in nutrition stuff around what helps you perform, and it's so often so easy for people to say, oh yeah, just eat less, move more, and yeah, on the face of it that's something, but there's much more nuance to it, and you individually, all as people, will have individual things that work for you and individual things that don't work for you, and so my passion is performance nutrition, and I love talking to people about performance nutrition, and it does go a bit deeper than just a Rice Krispie Squares bar and a banana before a training session. And yeah, and much like the other two lovely members of the coaching team, I served in the military for 15 years. I got out 18 months ago and I'm now doing this full time. So it's very much a passion of mine, and more than happy to talk your ears off about different things about food because, to be honest, I'd be a very, very good fat person if I didn't train. So yeah, on the whole of it, my job in the team is to educate and also to provide bespoke nutrition strategies around your goals, the things you want to achieve, and how you want to operate. Like that's what I'm here for, and I'm here to change the way you think about your food and allow you to achieve those goals that you don't think are possible right now. And that's me.
Perfect, mate. Thank you so so much. So without further ado, we're gonna hand over to Rob. I am really excited by this presentation because I have known Rob for a number of years, and I'm going to let him tell the story about how we first connected on the fitness front. But it has been an absolute privilege not only to get to know Rob, but Eleanor and the kids as well, because I think ultimately I'm in the relationships game. I want to get a relationship with every single person, which ultimately leads to me going out to Malta and running an ultra marathon with Rob that he wrote me into. So here we go. Let's hand over to Rob now. The floor is all yours, mate, and let's have your story.
Thanks, Tom. Did you hit record just
Yes,
before
I did hit
crack on?
record. Thank you.
Who knows? Anyway, hi everyone. So I'm Rob. This is going to be hopefully not too long a presentation, and I'm going to talk through a bit about why I first joined Tom, and then go on to it. Tom, are you on the right slide? Seems to froze. There we go. Okay, so this is to talk about the journey that I've been on over the last almost 3 years. So a bit of an introduction. I am a father of two. I have a nearly 6-year-old and a nearly 5-year-old. So they were 3 and 2 when I first joined, and pretty challenging. I'm CEO of a business within the gambling and iGaming space. I'm leading teams. I'm living in Malta, and couldn't have done any of this really without going through the journey that I'm going to talk through now. I've known Tom since around 2011. We met through a mutual friend, someone that I went to school with, and I served in the army with. Tom then served in the army with. We never actually met when we were in the army together, Tom and I. Met at this guy's stag do and wedding, and kept in touch ever since. I followed Tom through all of those challenges and things he was talking about. And on and off, I would message Tom with brief updates of things I was doing, which I thought were helping me. And Tom would always challenge them. Whereas I've just burnt 715 calories according to my Apple Watch in this session. And Tom would say, I don't really think that's the right thing for you to be thinking about. Think about it in a different way. So we started those conversations, and then it got to a point where I realized I needed to do something else. So where I'd got to was I'd left the military, as had the other guys, but I left in 2008 and went through many years without any meaningful activity. I would do the occasional run, and over the couple of years before I joined the team, I would see a personal trainer once or twice a week in the gym for an hour session. It was all about measuring the calories that you'd expended. It wasn't a bespoke training plan. I would then use those sessions and think, I've just burnt this many calories. I can go and eat this Haribo, or I can go and have a latte from wherever, Costa, with whatever in it. And I was really trying to use it to justify the excesses that I was eating, drinking, etc. I didn't really understand what I was doing wrong in terms of diet. It was something I hadn't really focused on, something I didn't really do well. I was working from home. I would get up between video conference calls. I would grab some of the kids' snacks, some mini cheddars or whatever it was. You'd finish the next call, you'd feel hungry, you'd do the same again. You'd open a bottle of wine on a Monday night, and finish the bottle of wine on a Monday night. And then I was obviously growing this business, and I would sit up late at night with a bottle of whiskey, a bottle of rum, whatever it was. You'd have a couple of those, you'd be replying to emails, you'd be doing something. Obviously unproductive work, really. I would then get to bed, sleep would be bad. I would then sort of have a downward spiral in terms of mental health. So it was a very bad position. And something which my wife, Eleanor, said to me this weekend, which is the first time she said this, was, I wanted to say something, but I didn't feel like I could. So she said to me, she was like, I wanted to be able to tell you that you needed to make a change, but she felt scared. She didn't feel she could tell me that. And she's only just shared that with me now in the run up to me doing this. So what I've done now, and this is what we're going to talk through, and we're going to talk through how I got there, all of the tools, the processes, what's changed, and how working with Tom and the team has really helped me get there. So there's a list there of various different events. And prior to me joining this, I had never taken part in anything like this. When I was in the military, obviously was reasonably fit, and did a lot of the PT and the running and everything else then, but had never really taken part in any competitive race or wanted to. So the last couple of years have been a complete change of my life. And it isn't just about going out and doing a 50-kilometer ultra. It's not about attempting a 70.3 Ironman. It's had huge impact on the rest of my life. It's meant that I actually have more time with my family. I have more time to do things with in the work environment, and I have more energy overall to be able to go out and do whatever I want to do. There will be some pictures in here of me before and after, and I promise there's not too many where it's just me standing there in boxer shorts, so you won't get bored of those ones, but there will be a couple, unfortunately, for you along the way. So how did I make a change? So just first off, that the picture on the left there is not exactly when I joined Team TC. That is about 3 or 4 weeks after I joined. Tom was bugging me for initial photos as part of the onboarding process, and I was too embarrassed to prop my phone up and stand there and take the picture. So I had actually lost a bit of weight. because when you start to focus and start to track, as we're going to talk about in a minute, you do lose some weight pretty rapidly. So I'd actually lost a couple of kilos, I think, by the time I got myself in the right mindset. And you can see how happy I look there to be able to take that photo. So as I said before, I'd been talking to Tom on and off. We'd sent a few messages. The first step of really reaching out to Tom and saying, can you help? Was actually really, really difficult to write that, to send that message and to take that leap. It was very hard. But why did it happen? So it was my 40th birthday in August 2023. We had gone to, in the UK, for those of you who are not in the UK, something that's quite popular is rugby tots. So we had a 3-year-old at the time who was at rugby tots. At the end of the rugby tot session, I kicked the ball down the field and I tried to run after the rugby ball with my 3-year-old. And about halfway down the length of the pitch, I was out of breath, I was red, I was sweaty, and I stopped and I thought, by the time these guys are 15, 16, 17, I'm either not going to be able to walk, I'm going to be dead, or it's going to be very, very difficult to keep up with these kids. And like the way I was going, that's how I thought. So for me, it's about how can I ensure that I am, this is the first bit, how can I ensure that I will be there when my kids are teenagers and beyond, and be able to get involved, to do things like this with them, to kick a rugby ball, to kick a football, to tackle them, to have all that fun. And if anyone's watched Tom on Instagram, you'll probably see some of the things he talks about with a very similar message. So that was how I got started. We quickly found out that it's all about building habits. And this was quite overwhelming at first. And I'm sure everyone who has already joined a coaching program or has worked with Tom, the initial kind of data dump that you get and influx of information and new learnings is pretty overwhelming. But the message really is start simple. And Tom really helps with this, has systems, tools, trainings in place to be able to help with this. And when you're thinking about nutrition, when you're thinking about steps, when you're thinking about how much water do you drink, what time do you get to sleep, all of these things, you need to start putting in place good habits to help you get there and start taking away the bad habits that you will have sort of accrued over many, many years and be the reason that you are needing to make a change or wanting to get better or whatever it may be. So we started off slow, and then it was about layering more and more on. And all of the things that to me now, after a couple of years, are just things that I do naturally. They were things that I had to put conscious effort into to look at things like atomic habits and the various different laws around that, around how do you make new habits, how do you break the old ones, how do you incentivize yourself to do these things, etc., etc. So it was all about how do we layer these things on to get the right progress that then allows you to do a little bit more. And it was all about staying committed. It was all about motivation on those things to start with. And when I started, I didn't really want to do more than a couple of sessions a week where I might do one CV session. I might do a few kettlebell sessions at home. I might still go to the gym and do a personal training session. And I didn't join to do anything more than be better, to make sure that I'd be alive for my kids when they're 15, 16, and to make sure that I could start to lose weight. So we then started to obviously track the progress. When you get started with something like this, it's all about setting a baseline and making sure you understand what you're doing so that then Tom and the team can have those data points and then can start to provide a plan. We quickly got into a very sort of strict nutrition strategy, which Adam set. And we went for a 1% body weight loss a week with a few diet breaks. And I basically went from around 120 kilos in August 2023 down to 82 kilos in February 2024. 82 kilos was a weight that I was targeting because the day that I left the army in February 2008, I was 82 kilos. So it was basically getting me back down to that weight that I'd been when I was a 26, 27-year-old. We tracked the progress. We made sure that everything was being monitored. And that really gave me a framework to be able to understand what was going well, what wasn't going well, and gave Tom all the data points to be able to tweak the plan and to make sure that everything was going in the right way. Tom?
I have actually moved that on. All right.
Okay.
Okay, 1 second.
Okay, perfect. So as we started to do this, I realized
Sorry, mate.
that
There you go. That's the one.
Okay, cool. So as we got into this, it basically taught me a lot of various different things around what I needed to do in order to, one, keep training, to be able to do these things, and to basically drive my life overall in the right direction. Obviously, I'd joined this to basically lose weight and for those reasons that we're talking about. But actually, it gave me a huge new area of knowledge, of education, of understanding around other things that really helped me. And these are some of the key things that we looked at. So one is consistency. It is not about being perfect all the time. It is about being consistent with doing those things on a daily basis, making sure you're getting the fundamentals right, making sure you are having the water, making sure you are getting steps in, making sure that you are going to sleep at the same time every night if you can, and at a good time to get the right number of hours in. It's about being consistent and good as much as you can. It's not about being perfect and then having huge relapses. Nutrition, the proper nutrition for performance is something that came with time. When I started, as I said, I was in this massive weight loss phase. But then as I started to lose that weight, we could then start to focus on what could I do within the current sort of remit of where I was, and what my nutrition was looking like. But then as I got a bit further on, it was about making sure that I am fueled correctly for the right sessions of training, for the right events, etc., etc. And I'm going to come on to that when we look at the events in a minute. A huge part is around, for me anyway, around the mental resilience, and it's around that mindset that I've now got. There's a lot of videos out there on Instagram and inspirational ones around discipline versus motivation, and it is absolutely true. There are so many times when the alarm goes off at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and you think, do I really have to get up and do that session or not? And that's when the discipline comes in, and making sure that you have that mental resilience and that you can do it and you'll do it. And then the final bit, which is actually related to that, but is a much bigger thing, and I'm going to show you a slide in a minute around community. But the community that Tom has built, but then also other wider communities. You're probably all in WhatsApp groups. You've got family, friends, support, etc. Having the community support is what really holds all this together. It really, really helps with the motivation, the why am I doing this, is this person going to, what's going to happen if we don't do this, etc., etc. So having that community aspect is something that really, really helps and binds it all together. So what else has happened? So there's a huge piece that we did with Tom, probably about 6 months in, which was around setting a blueprint and setting a vision for yourself. And the key change for me was I went from having this loose goal of don't be dead by the time your kids are teenagers, and I want to lose a bit of weight, to then setting some goals which actually then related to performance and what I wanted to do with this newfound lease of life and energy. And it really, really changed my mindset on everything. So if there's people who are doing this sort of thing, going through a transformation, going on a journey themselves, and you don't really have that kind of North Star and that end state or the state you want to get to, I would suggest having a think about that, and seeing if that's something that setting that will make a big change, because it did for me. Along the way, we've looked at so many different
Really good one.
ways of working. We've looked at adapting training methods, and working with Tom and challenging Tom on these things has been something that's really, really helped drive my performance over the last couple of years. And we're going to look at that and the role of coaching in a second. This has also made huge differences to me, and the final bit on this slide has made huge differences to me in my sort of personal life and professional career. It has opened up so many different opportunities, and whether they be business related or whether they be sort of personal relationship related, it is absolutely staggering the number of sort of areas that this has opened up and it's joined to. It's not just about a fitness journey. It's not just about going out and running an ultra marathon. It has changed everything, and I don't believe that the business that I am leading and working in at the moment would be performing as well as it is if I hadn't gone through this journey. I wouldn't have made the move to Malta. And I also got to the point where I was embarrassed, ashamed to even stand up in front of my team of 30, 40 people in Bulgaria and give a company presentation. So it's had huge impact in a number of different areas of my life. So this is just a couple of images. The first one was, so that was February 2023. We were sort of announcing the company. I was very embarrassed, hot, sweaty, on camera, doing an interview, and felt very ashamed. And then the second photo in the middle there is exactly 1 year later. And 7 months after I started working with Tom and the team. I was much more comfortable in my own skin. I was happy to have photos of me taken for the first time in many years, and happy to wear slimline jeans and a tight jumper, it looks like, and then the same shirt in the last image. But I think the last one is I was invited to talk on stage at a conference in Malta around the impact this has had on business and what it means. And I sat in front of a room of around 100 people and was very happy to talk through my journey at that point, relating it to business. And these are things that I wouldn't have done or wouldn't have been comfortable doing if I hadn't gone through what I've done over the last couple of years. So it's had huge impact. So let's talk about the role of coaching. Let's talk about Tom, Adam, Gaz, and what they have done. I sum this up into 3 key areas. So 1 is education, 2 is accountability, and 3 is a structure or framework. And for me, those are the 3 headlines of what I needed. I didn't know that I wanted them at the time, but they are absolutely what I needed. And I would say that they're the key reasons that people need a coach, whether it's a coach for this, whether it's an executive coach, whether it's coaching in various areas of your life. So it has been incredibly bespoke. Tom obviously works with a number of different people. We all have different visions for ourselves. We all have different goals. We all have different capabilities. We all have different events we want to train for and take part in, or just be a bit better and lose a bit of weight. And what is still quite staggering to me is quite how bespoke that is. And the image across the middle of the screen there is my daily plan for my training, which Tom sets up via Training Peaks. He's obviously doing that in collaboration, as he said, with Gaz. If there's any people coming back from injury, if different strength training or mobility needs to be added, that's obviously being done in conjunction with sort of best practice and what Gaz is advising as well. So on a daily basis, there is a plan provided. Tom and I discuss that every week. When it's added, when the new training block is started, we have a more in-depth discussion. And then what you can see on the right there is I sent Tom a video of me doing whatever exercise that was, which was a new one that he'd added to the plan. And almost in real time, Tom was giving me voice notes back. So it's almost like having the person standing there in the gym with you, checking your form and giving you feedback. And then I took a video of the next one, and he said, yeah, that's much better, but you still got this bit wrong, or why don't you try this? Or the two, I think we're doing, I think it was jumping down and then up again, or whatever it was on the boxes. And he said, put the boxes closer together, change this, and then we made it work. So the programming is extremely bespoke. And what I would say is, for anyone who's part of Tom's group, challenge Tom. Not as in challenge what he's programming you, but give Tom a massive challenge of choosing some events, doing different things, and making his life a bit more fun by making it challenging of what he needs to program for you. He is absolutely excellent. We've had, including myself, a number of people training for Hyroxes, ultra marathons, various different disciplines at the same time. And Tom is excellent at balancing all those different things. And if you have a coach that you see for swimming, for boxing, as I've done for the last 4 months, Tom will work the programming in around that, as around you getting the expert knowledge in the certain area that you need as well on top of that. So it's all about how do these things come together, how does the data feed into it, and how do all those things work. As Gaz said, when Gaz joined Tom back in the end of 2023, I had some niggles. I was still overweight. I was trying to ramp up the running. I had issues with my knee, with my ankles, etc., etc. And Gaz was amazing at setting some strength mobility exercises and getting me through that and keeping me moving. And luckily, I haven't had to really engage with Gaz since then. One, I think luck on the injuries, but two, also, I've basically been doing what he says on a daily basis. I've been incorporating strength, mobility, certain stretches, certain movements on a daily basis, doing things that him and Tom talk about, standing on one leg whilst you're brushing your teeth, etc. I do those things, and it's a habit now. Adam has been absolutely incredible. My plan has changed a number of times. We've gone through various different iterations of my nutrition plan, and every time it has been bespoke to what I want to achieve, how to give me the right energy that I need, to enable me to do all the things I need to do, and be present for my family, be there with the kids, do my job, etc. Because we're not professional athletes who just need nutrition to be able to go and do the training and the event. We all have real lives as well, and we're all getting on with everything else. So Adam's been absolutely incredible, and it's been completely bespoke, and changes as much as you need it to change. And then talking about the impact of the community. So Tom has built an incredible group of people, brought them together. And whether this be people inspiring each other to do something, whether it be little chats in a WhatsApp group that give you that motivation and that nudge that when you want to hit snooze on the alarm, you actually get out of bed and do something, whether it be recipes, suggestions for different fueling strategies for a race. What works for someone? Why not try this? To then the events on the screen that you can see there. So we've met up a number of times at 4 or 5 different Hyrox events now. I've run a couple with Tom, but we're going to come on to that. We have supported each other on various different things, and there's a couple of photos there of Trail Walker, which is a 100-kilometer ultra marathon in the UK, which happens every September. And the photo that Tom is highlighting down the bottom left, there are some incredible people in that photo who gave up their weekend to drive down to the South Downs and to Portsmouth and Brighton to support 4 of us who were running in that event. And these were people from Team TC who have families, who have their own training plans, their own lives, their own businesses, who supported us and enabled us to run 100 kilometers in 14 hours. So the community is there for various different things, whether it be actually on the ground doing things, or whether it be the nudge that you need in order to keep you motivated and keep you doing things. But it's absolutely incredible team. But obviously, it doesn't always go well. I'm going to talk about a few sort of high-level challenges, but then also some specifics in a second, and things that have gone wrong and things where it's failed. We all have other lives. And I think we have to remember that we are wanting to be better. We are wanting to make these changes to our lives to support our families, to support what we're doing with work, etc., etc. And coming back to where we started, making those first small changes, making those habits stick, making that routine, making the structure of life around you gives you the framework to then be able to cope with challenges and when there are adverse situations much easier and much better. Things won't be perfect. Things will get in the way. And it's about having the framework to make sure that you can cope with them in the right way, you can reset, and then you can go again. And I think a lot of this then leads on to how does it then allow you to do a lot more. Next one. Next one, Tom.
I did, mate. 1 second.
No worries. Just dies occasionally. Okay, that's just a photo. Okay. So yeah, you can see how I looked a couple of years ago. That's when Hugo was probably 9-10 months old. To how I am now. I'm smiling in that photo in the Barber jacket, but I probably wasn't very happy at the time about the photo being taken. But now I'm much more comfortable. I can run around on the beach. I can take part in Hyrox events, and I can really be there for the kids and for the family. So let's talk about the main bit then. So when I joined, I ran for the first time in about 10 years. It was about 3.6 kilometers. It took me about 35-40 minutes. My heart rate went to 180. I think I had to stop a few times and walk. I think I actually carried some water with me on that run because I thought I might need to have a drink, and probably did. My resting heart rate when I started with Team TC was 72. I then moved on into 2024, and this is how I really got the bug and started to get into this. So I saw Tom compete in a Hyrox event in Dublin. He posted it on social media, and that must have been in sort of late 2023. And I messaged him and said, Tom, I want to do a Hyrox. I was still north of 100 kilos. I had only just started to get back into running and do a few kettlebell sessions at home. And Tom said, great, let's plan it. And that's where this whole journey started. So I then did my first Hyrox. I completed it. I think it was an hour and 23 minutes in Glasgow in March 2024. And I really got the bug. I literally jumped on the plane back from Glasgow to Bristol and started thinking about what can I do next and where can we go. The move to Malta got in the way. And I didn't then run in terms of an event until a 10-kilometer race in September 2024. I turned up to that race. I didn't know what to expect. Going into the start box, I felt like I was completely out of place and I shouldn't be there. It was a very weird concept to be on my own at a race. Obviously, at the Hyrox, I've been there with Tom and some of the members of Team TC. I finished that race. I did, it was a 10K PB. It was 43 minutes and 40 seconds, I think, off the top of my head. And really then the bug that I'd caught from the Hyrox event was crystallized, and I thought, yep, I need to do more and more and more. I signed up to the Hyrox in Birmingham that October, did that one, and then did a couple more races in 2024. But by then I was really, really caught. So I'd started to look at what was next and sign up to things. So 2025, you can see there's a whole load of events that I did last year and races. And as we went through them, the programming was absolutely incredible. Gaz was there in the background if I needed him, and there were obviously parts of the strength and conditioning and everything in the program based on that. And Adam was changing the plan. There's a couple of things I want to call out. The 70.3 Ironman that I attempted in June and failed. I failed on the swim, but then continued and did the bike and did the run because I just wanted to get it done, and I'd eaten so many carbs over the 3 days before I needed to finish the event. I signed up to that 73.3 Ironman because Matt Clark, who is one of the team members in Team TC, had gone to watch Dave, another member, do an Ironman in Wales in 2024. Matt said, I'm going to do an Ironman or 70.3 next year. And I said, I'm going to do one as well. So we're all inspiring each other to sign up to things like this and things we would never have considered before. So another benefit of the community. I then took part in the 100-kilometer Trail Walker Ultra with Tom, with Noel, with Bill, and we completed that in about 14 and a half hours. We were the second fastest civilian team, and that really, again, crystallized my love for long distance running, which I've discovered in the last year and a half. And then did a couple of other things, culminating in a backyard ultra, which I got to 18 yards, 18 hours in December. And we've got another one in a couple of weeks where I want to go much further than that this time. And then 2026 so far, I've done a 10-kilometer. I ran a marathon in 3 hours and 13, which is my first ever road marathon. I want to hit sub 3 hours next time. And as some of you will be aware, and the photo there, I was training for a white collar charity boxing bout. Absolutely incredible experience, something which I would never have considered before joining the program, the group, and the structure, and changing my life. Unfortunately, that got stopped in the second round, and I was pretty upset on the night and afterwards, but we raised over £140,000 for charity. I've made some incredible friends and relationships throughout that event, and we've done a lot of good from some key charities there. But again, it's an example of things that you can do, and things when you challenge and push yourself, you can sign up and you can do all these things. So along the way, Tom hasn't just been a coach. Tom hasn't just been the guy doing the programming. Tom and I have become very good friends over the last couple of years, and it's been an absolutely incredible experience. And last year, I was lucky enough to race with him for over 21 hours. That was a calculation I got to. We did a Hyrox together in Malaga, and I think we did that in 1 hour, 1 minute and 17 seconds. So we didn't quite hit our sub 60. So we still need to get there and do another one and go sub 60 in a Hyrox. We also ran a 50-kilometer ultra marathon together and had lots of chats. And then we ran the 100-kilometer ultra marathon together as well. Tom is an absolutely incredible person, and as well as all the banter, the chats, the learnings, etc., what it taught me mainly is how hard I can push myself and what your body can achieve, and how much of it is physical and how much of it is mental. He really dragged me around both the Hyrox course and the 50-kilometer ultra, and it changed how I think about training. It changed how I think about racing. It made something else click, and it made me a lot more competitive, and it made me able to push myself a lot harder in the things that I've done since I had that opportunity to race with Tom and to spend time with Tom. So for anyone who's part of the group, ask Tom to do a race with you. He will probably say yes if he can. For those of you who aren't part of the group, join up and do the same. But no, it's absolutely incredible. But the main thing is it's taught me how I can push myself and the things that you can achieve when you really, really drive yourself forward. Died, Tom. Okay, so a couple of quick practical bits. And the summary of this is get out there, try, fail, learn stuff, and improve. Like iterate. Like things haven't always gone well. I absolutely hated the open water swim start of the 70.3 Ironman. Probably won't do one again. I'd have to be very someone would have to do a very good job at convincing me it's a good thing to do again. I did quite a hilly ultra marathon with very limited hill training because I was drowning in a swimming pool, or I was crashing and falling off my bikes, unable to unclip the pedals instead of training and running up and down hills. So probably don't try and do that. On the ultra marathon I did with Tom, my socks and shoe combination was absolutely awful. We got to about 41, 42 kilometers. And at that point, I think 3 or 4 of my toes were much bigger than they should have been and started to basically have blood blisters explode underneath my nails. So kit and preparation is something that I've learned a lot about. I didn't know on longer races how to fuel myself and what it would feel like and what I'd feel like needing to eat. I made mistakes of not carrying the right fluids. And these are all things that through experience and through doing them during training more and more, through entering more and more events, you get more and more experience and you understand how to do it properly. There's been chafing and lube issues. If anyone doesn't follow Andy Glaze, ultramarathon runner, on Instagram or Facebook, you should. He talks a lot about various different lube options and chafing. But learning these things is absolutely key, making sure that you get them right in training, get them right in the events. The impact of getting cold and wet on top of a hill, on a ridgeline, on an ultramarathon, and then it gets dark and cold a couple of hours later. How does that impact your body? You find out pretty quickly and you learn for the next time. And with the boxing, I stepped into the ring and I feel like I've forgotten everything that I'd learned for the 4 months before. But you need to try these things to understand what you do know, what you don't know, what you can then improve for the next time. And I chucked in there some PBs. As I said before, I didn't join this to run. I didn't join to do a 5K in sub 20 minutes. I didn't join to run an ultramarathon. I didn't join to do a Hyrox event. These are all things that have happened over the last couple of years. And I got to a point where I'm now pretty comfortable, apart from that 50 kilometers, which I'm going to beat by around 35 minutes in a couple of weeks' time. I'm happy with all the rest, but they're now, to me, they're now PBs to beat. And they're all ones that by April next year, every single one of those numbers will be lower. And I think the final bit on this is why did I sign up to so many events? Why am I doing all these? And part of it is I've got the bug. Part of it is it's absolutely incredible to do some of these things with the people in the group. But also at the start, a lot of it was something to keep me accountable, something to give me a physical goal, a performance goal, to make sure when things were still kind of solidifying in the processes we were doing, to make sure that I would stay accountable to the nutrition plan, to make sure that I would go to bed at these times, to make sure that the training program was there, that I would need to be up the next day doing a 2-hour run at 5 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was. And so initially, the performance related events and goals were to support keeping going and to basically stop me relapsing to old Rob and how it was. When we then got into it and set the vision, set the goals and the other pieces, I realized that these are now part of my life and part of how I want to behave, how I want my children to see me when they're growing up, and everything that goes with that, and setting a good influence to them. Tom, next one, please. So this leads on to the last bit and a few last pieces of advice. So there's 2 slides left. So surround yourself with positive influences, and whether that is Team TC, whether that is people in the gym that you see, and top right there in the image is Nicholas, who a couple of people on the call know, who was my boxing coach and absolutely incredible person who we've now got into running together. He's entered some events, and we've been running together for the last couple of months. Embrace these challenges as growth opportunities. I've learned so much more than just being able to run 100 kilometers by doing these events. I've learned so much about myself in these things. Never stop learning and improving. I found that as I've got older, I've wanted to learn a lot more, and whether that be education around nutrition, around muscle groups, around impact of doing something or not doing something, what does that mean? But also doing these things has given me more time. I'm more busy now, but I have more time and energy to do more things. So I have more capability to learn about emerging technologies, about AI, about a thing that I love at the moment is World War II history. But it's given me more time. I'm now spending more time doing those things and having time for the family and training and doing the races than when I was doing none of it. Stay committed to your goals. Set some goals first, and set those goals that align with the last bit on here. And that is set a vision and have a dream. And I've said a couple of times, we did the exercise probably a year and a half ago, and it was around what do you want yourself to look like? What is the future version of Rob, of Nicola, or whoever it might be? And we looked at where do we want to get to, and I set a couple of business related goals here. I set a couple of family related goals, and I set a couple of performance and race and event goals. And everything I do now aligns to those goals and make sure, so the small things that we're ticking off, whether it is the going to bed at 9:15 every night, whether it is making sure that you've got your supplements ready for the next day, the water's ready, coffee, whatever it might be, everything that I do aligns to those goals and can be sort of mapped back to it, and have that dream. I've got a couple of things that I've stated to Tom that I want to do by the time I'm 50, and we'll absolutely do them. One of them, for example, is the Marathon des Sables. I want to do the 5-6 days in the desert. A couple of my friends have just done it over the last week. It looks absolutely incredible. I want to be able to do an offshore yacht race and do a leg, a transatlantic leg in an offshore yacht race on a competitive boat by the time I'm 50. And within that, if something breaks on the boat, I want to be able to be on the bow, fixing something up the mast, doing whatever. And all of these things that I'm doing now help me achieve that. But they also help me achieve the business goals, and they help me achieve setting a good example for the kids and making sure that I'm still around by the time they're teenagers, and that we all have the best life that we can, and they have an inspirational figure to look up to and to want to live their lives in the same way. So, final one. I've got the road marathon and the boxing out the way this year. Just got a few kilometers of running to go between now and the end of 2026, and we'll start looking at what does 2027 look like very soon, I think. So I've got a 50-kilometer ultra in a couple of weeks. I want to finish in the top 10 of that, and I want to cut 45 minutes off the time that Tom and I did last year, which was 6 hours 15. So 5 hours 30 is my goal for that. I'm then doing a backyard ultra 6 days later. Adam, we're talking about that next week. Thanks, you're going to help me. Then I'm going to do a 130-kilometer overnight race along the Essex Way in July. We're going to win at least the civilian segment of the 100-kilometer Trail Walker Ultra in September with Tom and whoever else is going to join us in the team. And then Tom's going to come to Malta, and we're going to do 200 kilometers on the 5th of December and finish off the year on a high. So, yeah, busy year, lots going on. And I think the summary is I didn't join this to do any of these things. I joined to be a little bit better, to be alive for my kids when they're teenagers. And like small changes snowballed, gathered momentum, and have ended up in me doing what I am doing now. So it's whatever the starting point is, whatever the goals might be at the moment, like take a chance, do something. It's not about, as Tom said, there's no hard sell from Tom here. It's not about joining Tom. It's about thinking about what you might want to do and where it might take you. Thank you. So I think Tom's going to jump in again. And if there's any questions for me or for anybody else in the team, Tom's probably coordinated them, but thank you very much.
Rob, look, mate, absolutely phenomenal. What an incredible journey. And I think I'm a little bit overwhelmed because even through, I've seen this presentation, like, and yet to think just where it all started from essentially your basement office, where you just wanted to be a bit better. Can I have some kettlebell exercises? To where you are now. I want to just make one thing really, really clear before we go into the questions and answers. Because a couple of comments I guarantee that are going to be swirling around in your mind is it's all a bit overwhelming. I could never do that. And I think it's really important to recognize that everybody has their own journey, right? Everybody has something that they want to achieve right now, but you have absolutely no idea what you're capable of unless you give something a go. And I think it's really important to remember that everybody is an individual, right? Not everybody is going to be into running. Not everybody is going to be into cycling. Not everybody is going to be into Hyrox or CrossFit. But there are so many modes of physical exercise out there. So many modes of physical exercise that building programs and making sure that we find something just for you is wholly possible. So this is probably a really great point to end on, and that is that there is no secret sauce. Like, if you tuned in here to try to uncover what the secret sauce is, there isn't any. It's getting the basics right and relentlessly going after those basics and trying to sort out your sleep patterns and trying to sort out your hydration and you're getting training modalities that work for you and what you're trying to achieve. There are, of course, training methodologies that just work whether we think and like it or not. There are. But it doesn't mean to say they're going to work for you right now. And that is why having a plan that you can consistently stick to, and like with Rob, that started off with 3 kettlebell sessions a week in his basement office. That was what worked for him at that moment. Had I have thrown him into a half marathon training program on day one, he wouldn't be with me 2.5, near 3 years later. It's about understanding that each individual is absolutely different and building the processes and systems around you. So I think we've gone on and we'll sort of draw stumps there. I did say in an email earlier today that this is not a sales pitch, and I absolutely I'm going to stand by that. But what I'm going to invite you now to do is open up a conversation. Right? If you want to talk to me about anything to do with health, fitness, doesn't have Rob's journey, someone else's journey, mine journey, what's my favorite country music artist? Tucker Wetmore. Thanks for asking. Please just open up a conversation, because my ethos around coaching is that it is a very personal experience, and you need to know the other person that's on the other end. So there's a couple of QR codes on the screen there, or indeed, you've all had emails from me. If you want to reach out and have a conversation about you, then I am absolutely open to that. And if not, then hopefully, just keep following, whether it be on LinkedIn or Instagram or another social platform. And hopefully you'll get some value out of what I put out into the world. But thank you very much for everyone who has joined. Rob, just a huge thank you for you. Before you go, Rob, please make sure you scroll down in those comments, because there has been some really fantastic stuff said about you. Yeah, just keep doing what you're doing, mate. And we've got a load of events to train for this year as well. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Take care and have a wonderful evening.